Are you surfing at all?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
What are you riding?
A wave storm, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love wave storms, man.
Yeah.
The foamy.
And then I have like a 9-foot log that I break out occasionally. So, yeah.
Travis, you've been surfing.
Yeah, but I need to get another board.
I know, me too.
I've got a 6'2" Flyer 2, but it's just like, it's good when the waves are like overhead, but the waves are almost never overhead and perfect.
Yeah.
So I need some kind of I don't know, 6'6", 6'8", fun shape kind of thing.
Yeah.
People go out to watch Travis surf with the 6'2" when it's overhead. They're like, look at that guy.
And I'm just like sinking.
He's about to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I
embarrassing.
want to get into like a 7-something-ish probably board.
Okay.
Also more fun and
Yeah. I just, at this point in life, I just want to have fun. I want to be able to like paddle around and not have to work too hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Actually, surfing was like part of your jumping into this thing.
Yeah.
Surfing was part of the reason you guys were looking to be kind of like right on the beach or right there, right?
It's a bonus. It's a bonus. The rest of the family's, me as a little bit of a surfer, but the rest of the family doesn't really care about surf.
So what was it that, drove you guys to want to move to Shell Beach?
Well, it is beautiful. And we do like being close to the ocean. So there was always that desire to like eventually, if we had an opportunity, but it always felt out of reach.
Yeah.
And so
Why?
we were never that serious about it.
Like financially?
Financially.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
because it's Shell Beach.
It's Shell Beach.
Yeah.
I mean, we like casually would look on Redfin at stuff, and it was always just like, dude, it doesn't make sense. It never made sense to even like consider like buying there. Like you get like twice the house in North County, but we never had any. We didn't want to be in North County.
Yeah.
Where were you living before?
In SLO. We lived in SLO for, let's see, 2013 we moved back to SLO. We had been in Paso for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And we never would have moved to Paso if I had known we weren't going to like go to schools in Paso. Like we started having kids and Deborah's like, we need to send our kids to SLO. Like we can't have our kids in Paso schools.
That's
and I was
funny.
like,
what?
Wait a minute.
Wait. Why are we living here?
Why did we do this?
Yeah. Like I thought this was a forever move.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So anyways, long story back to Shell. Like we were in SLO on acreage in a really cool spot. I mean, Jeff knows about it. And it was like an amazing, we built this house new. And so we had been in it for 7 years, and then we got a little stir crazy during COVID and decided to sell the house with not having a plan for the next move. And it was kind of to open a door. We were thinking about leaving the state, and so just a lot of like restlessness. And so I wouldn't recommend anybody like make big decisions
Without a plan.
Without a plan. And so
it's painful.
There's some regrets there, but like it's all worked out.
Worked out.
We sold that house. We ended up renting for a while. And as you know, like the market was just running away.
Yeah, scary.
And we had decided not to leave the state soon after we sold that house. And so we're just sitting, looking for somewhere to buy and kind of our next forever home. Like, we've been in 3 forever homes now, and this is the 4th.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, this is our forever home. Man, there's a lot of acres to weed whack.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully this is our forever home.
That's awesome.
Always buy a home like with the attitude, this is it.
This is it. This is the one. Yeah, I'm gonna be here for a while.
For a while.
Yeah.
At least 3 years.
My uncle bought a house in Napomo, and he said he wanted to be buried in the backyard, and now they live in Idaho. So you can imagine how awkward that would have been if he would have been buried there. The next people.
But when he dies, are you guys going to show up with
they're
shovels?
No, they're in Tennessee. They're in Tennessee.
His final wish was to be buried back here. I'm sorry that you own the property.
Sorry. Gonna have to do it.
So this was pretty cool. Like, so I get this call from Tim. It's like, Jeff, you know that house off Cliff? I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's go check it out. And so we go, and we're looking at the square footage, and it's like, man, this thing is, what did it say it was?
1,200.
It said it's like 1,200 square feet. And we're looking, we're like,
Assessor's
where?
records. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like this.
You walk in, and that, just like the living room and kitchen are 1,200 square feet. And you're like, this place is really big. This is not a normal 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot house.
So I think I came back with a tape measure and like measured off the whole thing. You came back, and we're just like, no, this is definitely way bigger than 1,200 square feet. There's some value here.
Yeah.
Had they done an addition without?
They had done an addition
permitting?
with a permit.
Oh.
Yeah. And occasionally the assessor makes mistakes. And in this case, like they hadn't updated their assessment rolls when somebody got a permit. This was, I think, in the 80s that they did this big addition, and Pismo had records of it. And so that was part of my research when we were in escrow, was like, hey, what's the story with this? And you know, the city pulled up, they had a little scan of the original 1,800 square foot plan for the addition. And so like they knew that it was 1,800 square feet at the city, and it was fully
which is what
permitted.
matters. Yeah.
And so, yeah, the assessor just hadn't caught up with them. So anyways, it worked out great for us because we're buying an 1,800 square foot house that all of our competition assumes is 1,200 square foot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was really nice. And we got it fast. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about fixer-uppers. And you do have to be quick on fixer-upper, because there's going to be other people that want to buy a fixer-upper and make it their dream home as well.
Yeah.
So we were the first in, first offer, short response time, locked it up.
Tell me about a little bit of what the house was like.
Yeah,
and then also too, how are you and Deborah though in terms of your tolerance to risk? Are you both pretty well aligned, or is one more higher than the other?
I would count myself as a little more conservative than Deborah, but I make the financial decisions too, so maybe that's part of it. But she is probably, we're both conservative by nature, but I think when it comes to these decisions, I think I am a little more cautious on this stuff. And so, yeah, we're both definitely cautious people.
So were you thinking of a fixer-upper, or did this place just come up? And how did you find it? Because you weren't even thinking Shell Beach, right? Because you assumed that you would be priced out of it.
Yeah.
So did you see it on Redfin?
At that point, we had been renting for 2 years in SLO, and we were in a fairly comfortable place. So there wasn't that urgency for us, you know? And so we had the side story, but we had actually bought another house in SLO that was a fixer that we had intended to like remodel, renovate. It needed a big addition. It was also like 1,000 square foot house in SLO.
Right.
And like the continuing theme with all of these two places, like the place we're in now in Shell and that place in SLO, was like location. And so like both of those, we saw that they could be places that we could live and really be happy living in that location. And then the issue was the house was like not big enough. And so for us, it was like, okay, we can buy the location and fix the house, right? And so that's what this Shell Beach thing was, is like, we'll buy the location and we'll work on the house.
Yeah. That's smart.
The buyer that we're helping, that we're in escrow with now, she had the same feeling. She said, we found a place in Grover that's great. And she said, you can't move the house. So it's like she really loved the location, and the house needs a lot of work. Yeah. But the location was right. I mean, it's got an huge lot, amazing views. It's just the house needed work, and she's not afraid of doing some of the work herself and hiring the rest out. And she knows she's going to put money into it, and the numbers make sense and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's good to start with location, because like you can't move the home really. So so that's great. Okay.
So tell us about the house, what needed to happen. It was daunting. I mean, we were in there a lot considering different things.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like, because of what I do for a living, I've seen a lot of fixer uppers. And so I kind of have like a familiarity with like what your normal things are to look for. But in this case, like it had been neglected for quite a while.
Yeah.
Was it being lived in?
It had been lived in. But it was just in disrepair. So
like dry rot everywhere. I mean,
it had dry rot, termite damage.
Did they already have reports when you guys put in the offer? No? Okay.
No, there was a termite.
Was there a termite?
Or maybe we got a termite. No, there was a termite.
Okay, termite report.
But, that the kitchen was a 30-year-old, 40-year-old kitchen, hadn't really been renovated in like forever. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the house looked like the carpets were 40 years old.
Yeah, I think so.
The roof was leaking, so it had been a rainy winter, and so like all the drywall was wet. You could see like different spots in the ceiling that were discolored, sagging, and like in spots the carpet would squish when you walked over.
Oh no, my gosh! What was this place listed at? Do you remember?
Yeah, what was it?
1.5 something.
1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's not great.
No,
not great.
No, and then like the back had this deck with which has a great view, but it was literally so termite infested. Like it would sag when you walked on it. Like
it was like a squishy deck.
It was ready to fall.
Was
over.
this place in a trust or what? Or you said it was
in a trust. The family that owned it had owned it since the beginning of time. Yeah, so they had owned it a long time.
Okay,
probably since the 60s.
Okay.
Could have been like the original owners.
Amazing views this place has. Yeah. And location is just by this great park.
Yeah.
Like fantastic location for the kids to go play. I mean, it really was location.
Yeah.
So how did you, I have so many questions for you. I'm trying to put my mind in the, like a situation a lot of our buyers find themselves in where they're not opposed to this if it's the right place, but then it's like this chicken or the egg problem of, how do you know how much work it's going to actually take and what that's going to cost? And so what was your decision-making process? And I mean, working with Jeff, was it like, hey, let's just get into escrow and then we'll fine tune all that? Or did you do some more it sounded like you guys did more of that because you went fast, or did you kind of have a sense of how much it would cost, or you found out a little bit before you put in the offer? How did that process work timeline wise?
Yeah. So I, have some idea of how much things cost, like some like basic general like numbers to go by. And so I looked at this as like a total remodel, like a full gut and remodel, and we'll do what we can within our budget to like spread that out over time or whatever. And so I was looking at it like, okay, it probably needs all the things. Like if you name it, it probably needs it. And so like the first obvious thing was like, okay, it needs a new roof. The electricity, all the electrical was probably in question. Like there were obvious signs that there was like exposed wires in certain areas.
Did it need was it all knob and tube? Like
no, it was Romex.
Okay, it just needed some.
Yeah, so you could see just like walking through without doing a whole lot of like digging that like there were certain like clues like, okay, this is gonna probably be an issue. And so like the electrical was an issue and the plumbing looked like it would be an issue because it had like a bunch of copper, and then not just copper, but it had like a bunch of
like they'll galvanized
renovations.
Gotcha.
Like multiple generations of copper, and then like
so it's all Frankenstein kind
packs,
of.
Yeah.
Wow, you have all three, huh?
And then it had like the drain pipes, and this is just a mess. Like the laundry's in the garage, and the drain pipes were like not in the wall; they were just like running along outside the wall to like that had been another like renovation along the way where the original laundry location, who knows where that was, but this was definitely not it.
Jeez.
And so like, there were just all these clues, right? That like, okay, this might be an issue. The stucco's not looking great. The windows were dual pane from the 80s, but they had many broken seals. Some of the glasses cracked on some of these windows. So and we still haven't got to replacing those yet. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. That's one of the things. That's one of the downsides of a renovation. Yeah.
Right.
Do you mind saying like what did you think the cost would be looking at all that stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking a couple $100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then
smiling.
So yeah, we'll get to that. But so then you decide, what are the conversations like between you and Deborah?
So, she's very trusting.
Okay.
She is.
Actually, she's like, if you think we can do this, then let's do it.
And the whole family was on board with Shell Beach as a location?
Yeah. So I guess a window into like our family situation, right? Like schools are like the focus of where you live.
Yeah.
For like a certain part of your life. Right. And we're in that zone where like, kids 12, 10, and 8, they're all in school. And we're like, okay, where we live dictates where our kids go to school. Turns out not that case, because now we've started sending our kids to private school. And so like when that happened, and that was what happened when we were renting in SLO, is like we started sending our kids to private school. And so that opened up Shell.
Got it.
That's cool.
Also as an opportunity. Yeah. And so like, it was like, well, if our kids are in private school, we're going to look at these locations too, because we didn't necessarily want to go to Lucia Mar schools,
right?
But with the kids in private school, it's not a big deal. So
it's cool.
And being where we are, it's only 10 minutes to SLO, and we still I would say we're anchored in SLO. Like we go to church, we do sports in SLO. Like there's a lot of things that we still do in SLO, and then most of our friends are in SLO. And so like being 10 minutes from SLO, it seemed like doable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has it been doable?
And it has been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, they're 8 minutes from school.
Perfect.
The freeway changes everything, and Shell Beach is one of those. I'm singing the praises of Shell Beach, but
easy access. It's
easy access, and you can get to SLO quick. And so it's shorter. Many of the trips to SLO are shorter now than where we lived on the edge of town when we lived in SLO.
Right.
So that's the way SLO works. And anyone who lives in SLO knows, like, if you're going to the other end of town, like if you're going to the Bishop's Peak area and you live on Johnson, like
it's going to take 15 minutes.
It can, especially the wrong time of day, it can be a long trek.
Okay. So sorry, I'm all business.
Go for it.
How did you guys structure the deal then? Like the offer, how'd you write it up?
Oh gosh, you're making me go back. Do you remember?
It was
quick turn. You said
it was, we wrote it for, cash and kind of a quick escrow was our we
like 21 day or quicker.
Initially we wanted to make it contingent on selling that fixer that we had in SLO.
Oh, okay.
But the sellers were like not really interested.
That's
and
right.
So there was a counter back and forth on that.
Okay.
And so we decided, okay, well, we can probably figure out something to make this happen without that being contingent. And so I did my homework, and we got to a place where we could make that offer without having that other place contingent. So we did that. And so I think that was the big negotiation that we had to, the hurdle that we had to get over with these sellers was like, okay, once we got that out of the way, we weren't looking for a whole lot of other inspection contingencies.
Yeah, we weren't worried about the inspections.
Yeah, due diligence, because we kind of knew like it looked like a house in need of a lot of repair.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was relatively new on the market, right? Or no?
Yeah, it had just come on
the market.
Yeah, we got in. They had an open house. The first weekend it listed, I'm sure. And so we were there for the open house.
Okay.
And there was a lot of foot traffic. I mean, there were probably a dozen people that had gone through at the same time or while we were there looking at it.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they got a lot of exposure, but a lot of people felt, for whatever reason,
Were there multiple offers, or were you guys the only ones?
I think we were the only one. I think we beat everybody out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were really quick.
And then you I hear you say that you put a time stamp on it,
we
like you need
crunch,
a day or two?
Yeah, like a day. It was like a quick turnaround.
And then there was some back and forth counters about the contingency.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you locked it up?
We locked it up. Yeah. So locking up was key. And then what Tim did, which I thought was really smart, was he had a bunch of contractors just come through.
While you were in escrow?
Yeah.
What do you get?
What do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Especially with the things that I wasn't sure about, but I knew were going to need repair. And so like, I just went through with people that I knew were going to do the work and kind of got some better ideas of what it would cost. And so that kind of helped form like a framework of what we thought it would cost. Mm-hmm. And so far it's been pretty good. I mean, we're like almost a year out. We were in escrow this time last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we've been at it for a year.
Was the plan? When did you move in? Did you continue renting?
Is that the big surprise? It's been a year.
Yeah. I know it is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
We were renting, and this is a big piece of advice I would give to anybody is like really, really think about if you're going to move into a fixer-upper, the inconvenience that it's going to be. And like I would make, especially for a major reno like we were getting into, like maybe consider working into your budget, like renting for like a solid 6 months.
Yeah.
To get yourself what the time you need to actually do the renovation. So here's what we did.
This is good learning. This is like practical, real deal.
What we did is not what I would recommend for anybody else to do.
This is good.
Is like we were in escrow and I got my contractors, lined up, and I was like, okay, our lease expires in like 3 months. Can we get this kitchen done in the next 3 months? So, and it's a full gut and remodel. Like we tore down to the studs and basically redid the kitchen. Tried to do that in 3 months. And I'm telling you now, you can't do it in 3 months unless you're going to like do an IKEA kitchen or buy like the off the shelf stuff at Home Depot. Like it just takes that
delivery
long
time, everything takes
for cabinets. Like, and we went with Morro Bay cabinets.
Oh, they're great.
So, and they're good. They're very good and reasonable. But it just takes a long time for cabinets. Yeah. And so you'll run into that, and it just depends on when you do your project. But like there are lead time issues you have to consider. And we knew for a fact that we couldn't do windows because like I knew the lead time on the windows was totally not going to work. So that was out of the question. We were just focused on getting the kitchen done before we moved in. And I was like, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. I think we need like 10 to 12 weeks for the cabinets. And then it'll just be a mad dash and we'll get everything done and we'll move in and it'll be great. No. Like that was all. We were supposed to be done with the kitchen and move in July. And the kitchen wasn't done till the end of September. So that's how far off my timeline was.
And what did you guys do housing wise?
For about 2 to 3 weeks, Deb and the kids basically lived at our in-laws' house in Atascadero. So that was like a total blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Because we would have been just way more inconvenienced otherwise. During that time, we were like laying down some hardwood in the bedrooms, and what else were we doing? That was the big thing. Getting paint on the walls.
Did you tackle the plumbing and electrical first? What was the order? You mentioned the kitchen was your primary focus, but kind of the guts of it. Did you tackle that in the beginning?
Yeah, a little. Mostly, like we identified, okay, the kitchen is something that we'd like to do before we move in. And then we knew we were going to have to do new floors because like the carpets were terrible. Mm-hmm. And we knew we were going to have to paint. Like those were like the essentials. We decided we could live with the bathrooms. some of this stuff, you know, once we were in escrow and I was talking to, you know, contractors and stuff, like the electrical, we decided we'll do what we can, and then some of it we'll just kind of do later. And so like part of it's been a phased process. The electrical panel was a really old Zinsco panel, which is known as like
anymore, right?
And it's known as like a fire hazard.
Yeah.
Electricians don't even like to touch them because they have a tendency to short or fuse together, and you just can't even get get the breaker out.
Yeah.
But it ended up happening like 6 or 8 months later. We were able to like chip away at some of these other things. But really it was all based on this unrealistic expectation that we would finish some of this stuff before we moved in.
Yeah. Were there any surprises once you started opening walls and things like that? What did you find?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, like the Zinsco thing was, I guess, not a surprise. Well, we knew we were going to upgrade the panel, but like being a Zinsco was a surprise. When we got into, you know, the termite damage was way more extensive than we anticipated.
That's the worst.
So like that was something that ended up being, you know, we had to do like a little bit of repair work as we went. You know, we'd open up a wall and be like, okay, let's, you know, kind of like, you know, replace some of this lumber in here. And then, you know, I wouldn't say there were a whole lot of surprises. And then like with the electrical, there were some old like can lights that we were going to replace in the hallway. And especially with like electrical in a house that's kind of Frankenstein, is like, it can be really hard to track down like where things come from.
Oh yeah.
Wiring wise. And so like my electrician ended up spending a lot more time than I had anticipated working on that, because it was just not as straightforward as you would expect. With like either a house that's like original and was just laid out and wired the first time, or a house that's like more recent. Like this was an in-betweener, right?
Is it on a slab or raised?
Slab on grade.
Slab on grade, okay.
Back to electrical, what we find a lot of times with people doing remodels, and the electricals and piecemealed together between either Romex, old Romex, and new Romex, and then also like knob and tube. It's like, gosh, the electrician at certain points like, this is such a mess. I just need to start afresh.
Yeah.
And starts running new lines, new home runs, just like redoing everything, because it's like, I need to know what's going on.
And so in hindsight, you know, like this was one of those things where like if we had given ourselves that 6 months and really given ourselves more breathing room, I think we would have probably looked at rewiring the house.
Yeah.
Because what we ended up doing was just kind of moving in and dealing with it, and it's just kind of been ongoing. And so we're like piecemealing together the electrical. And so we'll like the kitchen's all new wiring, and then like we have some new home runs from the panel to the kitchen.
So which you replaced the panel then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we ended up replacing the panel, and so like we have like still now a Frankenstein mix of old wire and new wire, and it all works.
But it's frustrating.
And I'm comfortable that it's all safe.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you know. Like,
did you do the roof as well?
Yeah. And so that was another one where like I locked up the roofer when we were in escrow. It was like one of the first phone calls I made was I called the roofer and was like, hey man, I need to get on your schedule for a re-roof. This thing's leaking. And that was in April.
I remember this.
And I was in contract with him, you know, through the summer. He's like, well, we're really backed up, but I think I can get you in like June, July, you know.
Wow.
And now the roof didn't get done till like September, October. I remember there was like the first major rain was coming, and I was reached, and he just got the paper on.
So you finished the
time.
kitchen
The
before
paper on-
the roof,
so
the new roof went on.
You only
huh?
had paper on
Whoa,
with the first major
that's
rain.
good to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it all just comes back to who you use, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I tend to use people who I trust, and so like sometimes you have to wait
Yeah.
for somebody who's good.
It's true.
Will probably be busier, and you'll probably have to wait longer
And
Yeah.
pay more.
Yeah.
and pay more. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was you don't have to say an all-in number, but how were you off on your estimations of what the cost would be?
Yeah, for sure. By a significant, I would say like I'm probably running about 50% over budget
Wow.
on average, just
Wow.
because I'm that bad at estimating.
Hey, so yeah, you are bad at estimating, but no, I was kidding. No, but like,
that's
you see it all the
so
time.
funny.
People are like, "Oh, this kitchen should be 50,000, and this bathroom should be 20,"
Yeah.
and you're like, try doubling it.
Yeah.
Because once you start choosing the stuff that you want, and you want the special herringbone like pattern, and
Yeah.
like all that stuff gets so much more expensive.
It's the stuff you don't think about that ends up, I mean, for me, it's the stuff I don't think about. You know, it's easy enough to get like an estimate for like your counters. If you're doing a kitchen remodel, for example, you get your cabinet estimate, you get your countertop estimate, you kind of you're shopping for plumbing fixtures, your sink and all that stuff. But then like, there's you're just like odds and ends, like who's going to install the hood and who's going to, and then you have like a little bit of like plumbing that needs to be redone.
Yeah.
And then like we had to saw cut the slab to run a conduit for a new island. And so like, those things like just end up, nickel and dime.
Did you guys do any of the work yourselves?
Yeah. Which,
Like you intended to, or you?
yeah.
Okay.
what were you saying? Which
It always is funny to me because like I can probably pay somebody to do it better and faster.
Yeah. We have a friend that cut off his finger, part of his finger, for doing his own wood flooring, and it was just like, was that worth it?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, no.
But I love to do stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty hands-on and love to work on houses. So like there's always that urge
Yeah.
to work on the house. But I decided there's just like my father-in-law was volunteering himself to help out. So like we decided to do the floors and it worked out okay. But like I would grade us as like maybe like a B installer. B
You're solid B.
installer.
We could do a name, the B installer.
And so like and it was nice to be able to work with my father.
Yeah, it's a memory.
And have some sweat equity in the house. But
Yeah.
really like it was one of those things. And we did save money, but like I also spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
Which ended up, in hindsight, it's fine, but I'm sure there were things I probably could have spent time with the kids or doing other things, but
Yeah.
it's just part of having a fixer and wanting to be part of the project and do.
I like being part of the project. We've always been a part of our little
Yeah, we did an
flips.
addition at our house, and we did the majority of the work ourselves. And it's kind of one of those things where we wanted to save the money, but in hindsight, it was just so much work.
Yeah.
And like, there's things that I notice that aren't perfect that
It's like when I go to the front door, you're like, Jeff, don't turn the handle, just push.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But you get it done. Would you have done anything different in terms of like the order of the process or just anything like
for
that?
Sure.
What would you have done?
Apart from like that whole 6-month window?
Yeah.
I probably would hire a little bit more out. Like I tell myself every time I paint a house, like next time you're hiring a painter.
Mm-hmm.
And so this time I went all the way to the very edge. We actually bought paint to paint the house ourselves.
Oh my gosh.
Not the outside, but the inside. And then at the last minute, I was like, I'm going to hire a painter to do this.
Good for you.
And it worked out fine. But it was one of those situations that like, I lose my mind. Like I should have just known, like I need to hire a painter
right.
to do this. And so like, that would be, I guess if I'm doing it over again, like I would probably hire more people and even like the floors, like as fun or memorable as it was to do those, like I probably would have just hired somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so like it goes back to your budget too, though, like your money only goes so far. Mm-hmm. So there are things you can do to stretch your dollar. And if you do things on your own, and
honestly, paint like is one of those ones most people can figure out how to paint.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way you should ever like think about doing your own drywall unless it's a really small project.
Yeah.
You should probably just hire a drywaller.
And they're amazing.
They're incredible. We hired that out. It was one thing I knew I didn't want to do.
I have tried
and
so
watching
much
them is incredible.
drywall so many times. And every time I look at it, I step back and I look up, man, that's horrible. Let's call a drywaller.
Yeah. Yeah, they're artisans. They're craftsmen. They know their trade. And so that's something that you underappreciate when it comes to like painters, like they also know their trade, and like they're going to cut in the edges way cleaner than you will. And like, you won't have streaky, well, depends on who you hire. A good contractor friend of mine he's like, you get what you pay for in painters. Like you can hire a cheap painter and get a cheap paint job, or you hire a quality painter and you're going to pay more, but you get a quality paint job. And so like, that's something I've kind of like internalized. It's like, okay, well, I'm a cheap painter.
I'm a cheap painter. I'm a real cheap painter.
Okay, so this is good advice for people, I think, who are looking to buy a fixer-upper. It's like really beef up your budget and your time frames and be really realistic about that.
Yeah.
Hire more out than maybe you think you want to.
Yeah.
For quality, but also just for your own sort of sanity and time with family and all that.
Yeah, right. I think one of the things that people don't think about either is like, you're going to do all this work. It's like spend the time and money to permit what needs to be permitted, and like when you go to sell the property later on and they say there's a question on the disclosure says, did you do any work not permitted? And that's like a big red flag for people. Like more and more, especially in California. It's like, dude, we have earthquakes and we have all these things that happen. Like, so just, plan 6 months of permitting.
How long did it take you guys for the permitting?
We got permits for some of it.
Okay.
Which is what most people do.
Which is, and I'm embarrassed to say that because like part of what I do is get permits for other people. And I always advise people to get permits for their projects, but like sometimes it's just
quicker. It does add like 5 to 6 months to permit something.
Depends. Like we got the electrical panel got permitted and the roof got permitted to replace the roof, and so some of those permits are fairly quick to get, but if you're going to do, like, we held off on the windows in part because I knew it would take a while to get permits. I didn't apply for permits right away on the windows, but it could take months just to get a window replacement permit. So you definitely want to give yourself,
and that's because they want to make sure you have the ingress and egress, for fire and stuff like that. But man, that was a good interview, my friend.
Yeah, I could talk way longer.
There's a lot.
One more question before we're getting into the personal stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we covered that in the beginning.
No. Okay, so Tim, were you thinking like an investor in terms of, okay, well, we buy here, we put in here, and what's my like after repair value is going to be, and does that comp out? Like, how much was that a factor?
A little bit. Like this spot is just like one of those, like, it just felt like a really special opportunity, and that comes back to location. I don't know that you can make a case in many situations for like the value being there on a fixer. Like,
it's hard.
Seems like, and I don't have evidence, like I don't have hard numbers. Seems like new construction is almost like better bang for your buck right now. But if you want to be in a certain spot, sometimes this fixer thing. And so like as an investor, like there is a harder case to make as a pure investment play for where we're at.
Yeah.
But like as a like for us, like a, you know, place to live.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of buyers probably have that similar issue where like they're going to buy where they want to be.
Yeah.
You know, and they're maybe willing to pay a premium on the investment opportunity. Like you could probably make a better investment in Missouri.
Yep.
If you want bang for your buck in real estate or somewhere else. You know, I mean, risk is just another topic, but
yeah.
What did you guys end up doing with the slow house?
we sold it.
You sold it?
Yeah.
Just after the purchase of
Yeah,
Michelle
ended
Beach one?
up working out where like we were able to kind of catch up
Okay.
in
Cool.
escrow with that sale, and that all worked out for us. I mean, there were a lot of things that we are very fortunate fell into place.
It worked out really well.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, we had some stressful conversations, but it was great.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, how are we going to make this all happen? Is this good? Is this a lot too much? You know, I think that I always am prepared as an agent, like pretty much right around the middle of the escrow process. Everybody, I don't remember specifically with Tim, but like everybody always gets cold feet. I'm like, here's the cold feet call.
Yeah.
I just know that I'm going to be dealing with it.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, yeah, like great. Let's talk it out. What did you like about the house? What are you thinking you're going to do? And then people are like, and then there's sometimes where it's like, hey, those are really legitimate concerns. Like maybe this isn't the right house, but usually we've gone through so much due diligence to that point that like, no, this is the right house for you guys.
Yeah.
So, well, cool, Tim. Hey, tell us in your life, who was the most influential person forming you into the awesome man that you are today?
Well, my parents. I mean, like, it would be hard to say anybody else besides my parents. I mean, they're pretty cool people.
That's awesome.
Are they local?
No.
Where do they live?
My dad's in Minnesota. My mom passed away like 8 years now.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Okay. Favorite book, movie, or TV show?
Or podcast, if it's this podcast.
There's only one podcast you can mention.
I'm in a book club, and I read more than I watch shows right now. But
Good for you.
Yeah, like the Master and Commander book series is like
Cool.
kind of like a fun, feels like a Pirates of the Caribbean style, like just like fun boats and
I like that.
privateers and all that.
That's cool.
So that's been fun. And
That's
then
fun.
I'm reading Thinking Fast and Slow, which is super dense, very interesting about how we make decisions and our judgment and how
interesting.
our intuitions are not always reliable.
Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah.
Who wrote it?
Interesting.
Daniel Kahneman.
Okay.
He just passed away recently, and his obit led me to the book. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah. Anyways, well known. His psychology studies ended up being very influential in economics. He got a Nobel Prize for it in economics, and yeah.
Sounds like an interesting guy.
Yeah, I would love
Anyways.
to read that book.
Lots of really cool stories.
Yeah.
Like examples that he uses to demonstrate how bad our judgment is, and we all think culturally, basically, we think the same way in a lot of ways, and so like, and it's because, and he demonstrates how it's because we kind of like have the same impulses, and we rely on the same like basically intuitive shortcuts to get to our decisions, and they can be very wrong.
Is that why I always have Amazon boxes on my front door? That's kidding.
So anyway,
Making bad decisions.
Making
good
messages, yeah. Okay, so we love this one, and we always like to include food in it. But like, describe your perfect ideal day on the Central Coast.
it would be a warm, sunny day at the beach with the fam. Ideally, like Avila, South Swell.
I like it.
The sandbars are working, and there's like these nice little waves for the kids and big enough for grown-ups. And
I like it.
yeah, and
Perfect.
just hanging out at the beach all day.
Do you
Lunch?
pack a lunch? Do you go out? What do you do?
Mostly we'll like sneak over to the deli or the Avila the Avila market.
Yeah.
And get some sandwiches there. And I would love to think of us as like a pack your own family, but
reality is
the
we're
deli.
lucky if we can get a cooler full of beverages.
Okay, so beach day's over. What's next? You're home in the evening. Do you barbecue? Do you go out?
We do a lot of like quick and easy dinners.
Okay.
But on a perfect day, we would be going out to sushi, and the family would be like, "Why are we going to sushi?" Because I'm the only one.
Are you the only one who likes it?
It's your perfect day.
Pretty much, it's my perfect day, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you and me just hang out. That sounds great to me. I'll eat
fantastic.
sushi with you anytime.
I would love that day.
Yeah,
honestly,
that's
great. Awesome.
What a great day.
Can I join your perfect day?
Yeah. In ours, you're in it, so this is it's gonna work. Well, we usually ask people how do they get in touch with you, but probably you don't want to just throw out some stuff, but like, what do you do for work? Anything you want to promote?
Oh, well, my company is Romano Design. I'm just a one-man show, and my niche is getting permits, mostly like civil grading and drainage, structural stuff for people who are in. I do residential only, so a lot of new construction in the county, and that's what I do. So if you wanted to look me up, it would be romanodesign.us.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I appreciate you going through all that so we could give the listeners some advice. That's good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
Of course.